We often imagine genius as a sudden blinding flash of inspiration, a gift granted to a chosen few. But what if it's something else altogether? Leonardo da Vinci saw further and dreamed deeper than perhaps any other mind of his generation. He designed flying machines, unraveled the mysteries of the human heart, and painted the world's most enigmatic smile. But how did he see what others couldn't? In this part one of a two-part episode, we'll explore how his daily habits, from what he ate to how he slept, rewired his brain into one of the most brilliant instruments in the history of art. I'm your host, Oscar Lafont, and if you're fascinated by art, spirituality, and the hidden potential of the mind, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the Art Rites, where together we unravel the mysteries of creativity, mindfulness, and the human spirit. Leonardo da Vinci remains one of history's most enigmatic figures, a man who seemed to be in perpetual communion between the visible and the invisible. Born in 1452 in a small Tuscan village, he grew up in a culture that was bursting with artistic innovation, philosophical rediscovery, and the secret currents of Hermetic thought. His full name was Leonardo di Ser Piero da Vinci, which translates to Leonardo, son of Piero, from the village of Vinci. Vinci was not actually his surname, but the place where he was born, a result of a union between a wealthy Florentine notary and a peasant woman. This was a profound stroke of fortune because he was not burdened to go into a preordained path like his father. His unconventional status freed him to pursue his own interests, which led to an apprenticeship in the creative arts. This lack of a formal classical education was, in a profound sense, the genesis of his intellectual rebellion. He attended only a local abacus school to learn commercial mathematics and was otherwise largely self-taught, free to roam the Tuscan countryside and observe nature with unbridled curiosity. This self-directed learning laid the groundwork for his core philosophical approach, which he would later encapsulate in the phrase saper vedere, or knowing how to see. This distinctive method of inquiry was cultivated within the vibrant intellectual crucible of Renaissance Florence, and his lack of a formal classical education may have actually helped him, as it shielded him from being indoctrinated with the false dogmas of the old masters. The city was not only the cradle of the Renaissance, but also a hub of philosophical rediscovery and secret currents of Hermetic thought. Leonardo absorbed this mystical climate, defined by the circle of intellectuals around Marsilio Ficino, who was largely responsible for the revival of Plato, Platonism, and the Hermetic tradition during the second half of the 15th century. Ficino and his contemporaries believed in an ancient theology that blended pagan philosophy with Christianity, and they saw the cosmos as a network of magical forces that man could interact with. This intellectual synthesis of mysticism and empirical observation, a mind that sought both hidden meaning and provable law, is the profound creative tension at the heart of Leonardo's work. It has been claimed that Leonardo may have practiced a polyphasic rhythm of sleep. While this is a modern term for a schedule that involves taking brief naps throughout the day, the true value of this theory lies not in the sleep schedule itself, but in the state of consciousness it is said to have induced, hypnagogia. This is the liminal state that occurs in the transition between wakefulness and sleep, a creative sweet spot where the mind produces surreal, inventive imagery. Modern research confirms that this is a fertile ground where the brain shifts from linear alpha waves to the more creative theta waves, allowing for a hyper-associative state of thinking that bypasses the conscious mind's over-editing filter. Artists and inventors have long cultivated this state for creative problem solving. For instance, Nikola Tesla reportedly slept just 2 hours at night, and Isaac Newton was also said to have logged only 2 hours of sleep per night, choosing to work the other 22 hours of the day. For Leonardo, this habit may have been a deliberate methodology for accessing a deeper wellspring of creative inspiration. Leonardo wrote his private notebooks in a mirror script, as in from right to left, which has led to much speculation. The most widely accepted and practical explanation for this habit is that as a left-handed person, writing in this direction prevented him from smudging the ink with his hand as he moved across the page. This is supported by the fact that when he wrote texts intended for others to read, he used the standard left-to-right script. The beauty of Leonardo's genius is that an act born out of simple convenience may have had a profound, albeit unintended, cognitive effect. Mirror writing can, for some healthy individuals, activate the right hemisphere of the brain. Furthermore, writing in an unconventional manner would necessarily slow down the process, turning the act of recording a thought into a more deliberate, meditative exercise that could have enhanced the quality of his reasoning and aiding with memory retention. This duality is a compelling part of his genius, a practical solution to a mundane problem that may have had a powerful secondary impact on his neurological function and creative process. Leonardo's profound empathy for animals is a crucial point that reveals a man ahead of his time. He was a vegetarian in an era where such choices were rare. The biographer, Giorgio Vasari, tells us in his book, Lives of the Artists, that he would buy caged birds in Florentine markets just to set them free. In his notebooks, Leonardo expressed the immorality of eating animals and questioned humanity's role as king of the beasts, writing with a moral outrage that was totally at odds with the culture of his age. At a time when interpretations of Genesis saw animals as created for human use, Leonardo's vegetarianism was not just a dietary choice, it was a radical philosophical stance, an exercise in mindfulness that tuned his perception to the interconnectedness of life. While Leonardo's sexuality remains a subject of historical debate, it is widely believed that he lived a celibate life after a pivotal event in his youth. In April of 1476, at the age of 24, he was publicly charged with wickedness, a euphemism for sodomy. While the charges were ultimately dismissed, the experience was a profound trauma and possibly the worst 2 months of his life. Psychoanalyst Otto Rank viewed artistic creation not as a mere sublimation or diversion of energy, but as a central, intentional act of willing, arguing that creative figures such as Leonardo may have transmuted desire into art. To understand the human body, Leonardo's curiosity led him to perform dozens of his own dissections, with some scholars estimated he worked on around 30 bodies over his lifetime. He was a pioneer of anatomical science, and his drawings remain some of the most accurate ever made, centuries ahead of medical science. He approached the study of the human body not as a spiritual vessel, but as a living machine. A testament to his ingenuity is his molten wax technique, which he adapted from his knowledge of casting bronze sculptures. He would inject molten wax into the ventricles of a dead brain to determine their true three-dimensional shape, a procedure that was the first recorded instance of its kind in medical science. As his anatomical studies became more detailed, his later paintings, such as St. John the Baptist, became less anatomically focused, more general and supersensual. This suggests that for Leonardo, the act of dissection was not merely for the purpose of accurate artistic representation. By confronting death in this way, he was not just documenting the body's mechanics, but absorbing its structural truth. A deep understanding that liberated him from the need for painstaking detail in his art and allowed his later work to evolve into a more ethereal and profound expression of the human spirit. All of these practices, from his birth as an outcast to his anatomical studies, were not disconnected habits, but a unified method, a deliberate cultivation of states of consciousness that enhances creativity, empathy, and vision. In our next episode, we will see how this master of an altered state encoded his philosophies into his most famous works, from the Vitruvian Man to the Last Supper, revealing that his art was a riddle, a cipher, and a vessel of secret knowledge. For this week's Art Rite, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to train your own power of observation on the most mundane object you can find in your home. A coffee mug, a spoon, a doorknob. You will treat it as Leonardo treated a human corpse or a flying bird. Then, for your real art rite, you must draw the same object once again, but this time using your non-dominant hand. The goal is to force your brain to slow down and engage with the object in a new way. There's no need to rush. It would be much preferable if you really slow down in order to practice your observational skills. Hopefully, the clumsiness of your non-dominant hand will turn the simple act of drawing into a deliberate, meditative exercise. In doing so, you are cross-wiring your brain, activating new pathways, just as Leonardo may have done with his mirror writing. Final drawing is of no importance. The ritual is the practice of seeing with a new kind of attention, and knowing that the true genius, as Leonardo proved, is the process itself, not the product. If you're also interested into mindful art, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. I thank you and I love you, and these were the Art Rites.